12th, 2025, shortly after 2:30, and I will call the meeting to order. Ms. Strange,
Thank you. Roll call. Commissioner Lofstrom.
present.
Commissioner Lee.
Here.
Commissioner Gutierrez.
Here.
And Commissioner Arulapon.
Here.
Thank you.
The next order is the approval of minutes. Does anyone have any corrections, or do you want to move to accept?
I can make the motion to accept the last meeting.
No second.
Okay, thank you. All those in order say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, then that's passed. I made a little grammar typo just then, but sorry about that. All right, we have a report of disciplinary action. Ms. Goodman.
Thank you. We do have one report of disciplinary action for the month of February. It's an order of dismissal out of the district attorney's office, and there is no appeal.
Okay, thank you. So do I hear a motion to accept the report?
I'll make a motion to accept the report of disciplinary action.
Thank you. And a second?
I can second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. No opposed, and so that has been accepted. Thank you. And with that, we can move into our classification projects.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Molly Boonslat presenting classification project CP 23-021 for amendments to the Child Support Officer Series, Child Support Supervisor, and Child Support Program Manager. The Department of Child Support Services requested that Human Resources to retitle the Child Support Officer Series to a more common title of Specialist and amend the classification specifications to be written in a more customer-focused manner. These amendments align with the rebrand of the State of California Department of Child Support Services as a human service agency. Human Resources also reviewed the minimum qualifications to the series and adjusted and/or eliminated patterns to create a clear progression in the series to fit county standard language. At this time, HR would like to request one additional amendment to the Child Support Officer 1 class spec. In the last sentence of the class characteristics section, HR would like to replace the phrase maybe to are, so that the sentence reads, upon successful completion of 1 year as a Child Support Specialist 1, incumbents are eligible to move to the journey level class of Child Support Specialist 2. The attached draft class specifications were shared with Service Employees International Union Local 1021, and the union did not pose any objections. A more in-depth look at the series is anticipated beyond the purpose of this study. If any additional changes result from that, they will be brought forth for your approval. Director of Child Support Services, Abe Mendoza, and the Assistant Director of Child Support Services, Kathy Bohasic, are present should you have any questions of the department.
Thank you. Before we start, did each of the commissioners find where the change is? Or did y'all see that? Okay. Okay, so does anyone have any comments that they want to make at this time?
About the whole thing we're talking about? About just the change she made or anything?
The intent is to focus on the changes, the new things.
I think I have made it clear that I oppose interpreting the laws to be in anywhere in our descriptions, and I feel very strongly about that. And I would move that we approve the things as they are, but with the amendment that we take out interpret where it says interpret laws. And I feel very strongly about that because, as you know, I've made it very clear that there are 3 branches of government and they're separate, and only the courts interpret the laws. And we need to continue with that. That's, to me, I have spent my life protecting the Constitution. and the Constitution is very clear about who interprets the laws. Our people enforce the laws. They don't interpret them, they enforce them. And if this continues, I don't think we're gonna have the kind of country that we expect that we have. We're gonna end up, I'm afraid, in administrative people interpreting the law and taking the law and saying they'll enforce the laws that they think need to be enforced because they're gonna interpret them.
And thank you. And, you know, we are clear, and HR has been making effort to address that issue proactively. And in fact, I've been seeing and hear every effort to take out. So I'm thinking perhaps one slipped by. I'm not even sure where this one is. Could you explain it a little bit more?
Well, it's here under pattern, well, it's in different places. It's about ability to interpret the law.
Okay, hold on. Let's look at that one. Under pattern.
Child support specialist 3. Child support specialist 3.
Oh, you're on the third one. Okay, I'm looking at the first one.
Well, I think there was someone there, but I'm looking at that one right now because I can point it out to you.
Molly, do you know what that we were referring to, and can you possibly address this?
Yes, so for the primary focus of this study was to update the language into less enforcement terminology, and so that was the focus of the study for this particular efforts. With the usage of, we would note the Commissioner Gutierrez, your objection to the use of the word interprets in
Interpret when it's next.
in
when
the
it's talking to
context of
laws.
rules and regulations.
Laws, just laws.
laws.
Not rules and regulations, that's fine. Just laws. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It was noted to that, so that was not the focus of this study, and so we are moving forward with, as we create new classifications, we are being very mindful for usage of the word, but in the context of this study, it wasn't on a radar or in a manner or at a level in which we felt it would be inappropriate.
Okay, but do you see that it is there, where ability to interpret, right?
Yeah, I do finally see, and I do want to, agree is not the right word, corroborate what Molly is saying. They are making every effort.
Right, I understand that.
But they do, the focus on this case is on what I really thought was sensitive, the changing away from the officer to the specialist. So they are making efforts. When they see it, they change it, and so they are sensitive to the point that you're making.
I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, I'm sorry. Are you finished? Yeah. Well, then, could we go ahead and approve these with the amendment that this, where it says their interpret laws be stricken?
So let's hold on, because there may be other,
Oh, yeah, sure, but I would
And then-
make my motion to include any other changes that others here want to make.
and if you want to make that motion, you certainly can.
Yes.
Okay, so does anyone else have any comments on this?
I do. First of all, this is, really like to see this and see how we're moving to the state standards. Couple of questions on minimum qualifications. First, starting with child support specialist. It states that 1 year of full clerical experience involving substantial public contact, and the rest is or, so meaning that any of those line items could singular be a qualification, correct?
Correct. So the work of a child support specialist is what we would like to retitle it, is very specialized within the department. So the previous minimum qualification required 3 years, which for an entry-level position, a lot of the training for these positions are going to be done internally, and you would only carry out the same work or type of work if you go to another county's child support office. So it's a lot of the training is very internal. It's something that can be taught, especially at the entry level. So 1 year we worked with the department was more than adequate
Okay.
to teach someone, because they can progress through the series as well.
Well, my only problem with that is, I understand wanting them to have clerical experience, to have experience moving documentation. I understand that. My problem is asking for someone, to be able to move someone into a position, noting the duties that they have. You're asking someone who's been a secretary for a year. You're saying that they're qualified to move into these duties, even with training. I think that, I understand you wanting them to have clerical abilities, but 1 year of clerical experience, I feel like, is way below the expected ORs of this line. I mean, we're making a big jump from being a secretary for 1 year to presenting evidence or information in court or administrative. That's like a clerk. So my question is, can we change the wording in some way to clarify that we're looking for them to have clerical experience? Or either say, rather than a comma, say and, put an and between contact and responsibility in the experience clause.
I don't foresee an issue with that, but I would defer back to the department as they are all encompassing of what they would look for experience-wise for their specialists.
Are they present?
Yes, they are.
I thought so.
Yeah.
So if you would like to speak to that, and I have 3 different names, so I'm not sure who it is, but I think I see where you are.
All right, good afternoon. No, I definitely see the concern. I guess my feedback would be is that it would be difficult for an individual to obtain all of that experience within 1 year, right? But they could have the qualities needed to progress in the series. And depending on where they're at in the department, they may not have experience with all these different types of duties. That would be my only feedback to the commission.
So you're agreeing, I mean, you would be agreeable if we made a motion with this language? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So I'd like to make,
Well,
do we want to make the
We
motion?
still have another comment.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so is that all your comments, that one? And?
No, actually, it's not. but
Okay.
I'll yield.
I'm good.
Okay,
My other question is, just because we've been doing these reclassifications for entry purpose to sort of open up the pool of available employees. And I'm noticing that the specialist has 2 different patterns in which you can come in, and the rest of them are singular in their patterns, meaning that either you worked in San Joaquin County or you worked in another child support, so is there not any educational level that a person could apply for these other positions upward? Or is it just we have to enter in at specialist?
Yeah, so you're talking about coming in as a 3?
Yes.
Or a supervisor
Or
or
2?
program manager?
Yes.
Yeah, so you have to have prior experience as a child support officer or child support specialist, 1 to become a 2. And so if someone comes from another county, they need to have that child support experience within the program. So someone that has a college degree cannot just come in as a child support specialist 2. They can't come in as a child support supervisor or program manager. They need the base knowledge of a child support specialist to progress all the way through the series.
Okay, and in the spirit of what we've been talking about with expanding our pool of potential employees, because I understand it's really hard to find employees today, or people that are qualified, is it possible to look and see, is there an education that would maybe fit that if we're gonna train these people in this position, you know, so that we can open up, because if we only look for people that have, child support specialist one experience, you've tightened that pool down pretty small compared to what you need, and then most of the time, if you're looking for that, if you don't do it inside, then you're going to be looking at someone to actually move. And, I mean, I just don't see anything, I don't see anybody, unless you're offering a high financial raise for someone from LA to wanna move up here to become a two.
Right, yeah, definitely understood. And I guess I would compare it to someone wanting to go into the police department and come in as a captain, right? They need that prior experience as an officer, a sergeant, a lieutenant, to go through the ranks to understand the program, how the program operates from at a state perspective, but also at a local perspective. So I don't see folks coming in from that avenue on the outside, coming in as a program manager without child support experience. Now, they may have, for example, a program manager may come from HSA, different county department. They can come in potentially with without child support experience, but as a specialist, two or three, that's going to be really, really hard, because as a three, you're required to have a level of case management experience, dealing with potentially difficult customers, knowing the policies of child support around the state, around the nation, and that would probably take years to get up to speed. Someone coming in as a three off the street without prior experience in the program.
Is that it?
That clever.
Okay, well, after those substantive comments, I only have little typo type thing that I want to adjust. And it has to do with these patterns. So I noticed on the child support specialist one, you have either pattern one or either pattern two, and didn't put and for both patterns. And to me, it just puts a little uncertainty in there before knowledge and ability and everything. And I noticed in the other set we had it. So that's a pretty trivial thing, but nonetheless, I think it provides clarity.
And uniformity,
And I'm going to have a second one very similar when you're done with that. So this is, I think, just a result of doing all the red line. On the child support specialist 3, the minimum qualifications, and then it says either pattern 1, but then you've deleted pattern 2, so that can simply be deleted.
you don't have a problem with that?
Yeah, it's a, right. And then I don't know what you put there to separate. No, you don't have to put anything to separate the knowledge, because it's the experience, the knowledge, the ability. Yeah, sure. Okay, I think that is all I had. I know 2 people are anxious to make motions. So I'm simply going to say I'll entertain either one.
Well, he's there, I'm gonna.
Oh, you wanted to do some additional
Well, no, just-
questioning
No, just,
about, sure.
yeah, where we take interpret out, you're gonna still have apply and explain laws. You don't have any problem with that?
I think I prefer to have interpret. So a little bit of background, I've worked in San Mateo County, Sutter County at the state, and there is a level of interpretation that goes into managing cases. Our case managers, they
Well,
manage.
I don't say, you can interpret those, there's no problem with that. It's the laws that I have a real problem with with administrative people interpreting laws. So you want to still have interpret laws.
Yes, we do.
Well, I feel very strongly about it.
Okay.
And with your objection, I still would move that we would approve these with the amendments that we said, that we've made so far, and that we take interpret out and leave apply and explain, which I think is enforce. That's my motion.
Okay, so a motion has been made. Is there a second? Okay, for lack of a second, the motion has died. Is there any other motions on the table?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion on Child Specialist 1, under either Pattern 1 experience, to add the word "and" between contact and responsibility, and keep the word "or" between preparing and present.
And if you don't mind adding the amendment that was made to us earlier and the
And
the
also,
typo. Yeah.
the amendment? Oh, and accept the amendment of "are," the word "are," in, what was that?
Class characteristics for.
In class
child-
characteristics of Child Specialist 1, between incumbents and B in the last line. And also the clerical change of the "either," removing the "either" in patterns of the remaining classifications.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Yeah, I can second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say no.
No?
Okay, that motion has passed. Thank you all.
I have one other thing I'd like to do. In view of this, I can't continue to serve on this. So I, Anthony J. Gutierrez, hereby resign my position on the San Joaquin County Civil Service Commission. I take this action under protest that this commission and this agency unlawfully refuses to recognize that only the courts, the judicial branch of our Constitution, form of government, have the sole and exclusive duty and power to interpret our laws. Wherever executive branches of government usurp the power, authoritarian dictatorships are formed. Anthony J. Gutierrez. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez. Moving on to the next item on the agenda. Another classification project.
Thank you, Chair Lofstrom, Commissioners. Amy Brimmer, Human Resources, was there? Nope, okay. This is classification project 24-035. This is asking you to adopt a new classification for lead social worker and to amend existing classifications for social worker, senior social worker, and social worker supervisor. In February 2024, the Probation Department's Juvenile Division requested the addition of a new lead classification level in the social worker series used by departments other than the Human Services Agency, or HSA. To eliminate inappropriately using that HSA social worker series, which focuses on a different type of social casework, this request asked for a level to manage the most complex cases, provide training to lower-level social workers, and act in the absence of the supervisor for departments outside of HSA. The primary and immediate reason for this request is that Probation's Juvenile Division has experienced a rise in the number of youth requiring intensive social work and counseling services. Social worker, senior social worker, and social worker supervisor are already used within Probation's Juvenile Field Services Unit. They assess, identify, and work with clients to develop plans to connect them with services such as financial and social treatments. However, while these existing classes serve at the entry, journey, and supervisory levels, there is no working lead to assist the supervisor with developing and overseeing staff. So Human Resources worked with probation to create the new lead social worker. As a result of adding the new level, senior social worker needed updates to differentiate it from the lead social worker and also to provide clarification regarding the nature of work and reporting relationships. We also, on senior social worker, removed the responsibility for supporting a division chief and acting as a lead worker. Changes made to the social worker supervisor that are before you today include reinforcing overall training and ensuring the required knowledge base of staff, and that it will remain the responsibility of the social worker supervisor. In addition, the internal qualifying pattern, pattern 1, was removed from the minimum qualifications as both patterns netted the same requirement and they eliminated the multiple references to qualifying classifications. So typically, if we have an internal qualification, we're speaking to one level or one particular classification. When we start getting a little more broad than that, then we're potentially being exclusive of others. And so we just work with the qualifying what type of experience instead of calling out the actual class spec or classes that can qualify internally. There is one, we'd like to propose a change here on the social worker supervisor class spec edits for duty statement 1. Where the edits begin for duty statement 1 on social worker supervisor, we ask that you accept the proposal to change responsible for to maintains responsibility for. We do actions, and so we're using verbs, and it's just to change it from, to change it to a verb. In that, for that phrase that's editing duty statement 1 on social worker supervisor. Okay, and we did provide the draft class specs to SEIU and on January 8th and received no objections to the class specifications prior to this meeting. This is our summary of review. However, the Assistant Deputy Chief Probation Officer and Adina Mejia and Social Worker Supervisor Bethany Wood are available remotely for questions should you have them of the department.
Okay, great, thank you. Does anyone have any comments or questions?
Just one small, again, thank you for doing your work, your job, those of you who hold these titles and those that are leading in it. Very small, but I know that we had talked previously about some statutes changing about license. And I noticed that that's one of the requirements in here, and I'm wondering, does that statute require us to identify that one of the required expectations is to drive? Or is it just, you can just claim the license?
No, it actually, if we're presenting the full scope of review as we are here of the classifications, we are also reviewing, if there is a driver's license required, we are reviewing that it is actually necessary to perform the functions of the job.
Okay, and I understand that, it's required, and I can see where it is, I don't question that at all. I'm just wondering if, somewhere in the duties, if that needs to be listed for legal purposes, or is it fine just saying that we require a license?
So the duties themselves don't necessarily have to call out transportation required of the incumbents or anything of that sort. They are sufficiently embedded enough within the classifications that we could
It would be inferred?
substantiate that.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm just looking at it and going, well, maybe it's,
No, that's a really good question, because we do on occasion, we'll look to see if there's enough embedded, and, you know, we're reviewing it, we're working with our subject matter experts at the department. However, if somebody's reading through the class specifications for the first time, it may not be as apparent as what we're inferring when we're reading through the duties of the role.
the only thing that I saw that might infer is it says, you know, visit clients outside of office. And, I mean, that could be inferred, but I feel like just for clarity and dotting the i's and crossing the t's, if we put that in there, the necessity to drive or some kind of wording, I don't know if that is or if that's something we want to visit today, but I don't know the clarity of that statute. But I do know that there is a statute there.
So it looks like you may be in reference to, and I'm actually looking at the new classification. Duty statement number 4 states interviews clients in the office or in the field, such as in homes and/or schools, to assess and identify needs. From a classification perspective, there can be different assessments. That assessment would suffice, that right there, we wouldn't need to call out any kind of thing like operates a motor vehicle or drives a car to another location or something. We wouldn't necessarily be that specific in all cases.
Okay.
It does say, I'm looking at social worker supervisor under physical and mental requirements. It does say driving may be required.
I overlooked that.
I figured, that's okay, I didn't even think about the driver's
yield.
license, so, yes.
Sorry. Didn't see that. And I called myself reading.
Thank you, Chair.
You're welcome. Okay, so I have another one of those small things, but not as small as before. So under social worker supervisor, under typical duties, number 6. On the third sentence down, not necessarily the third sentence, but the third line down, there was a correction to remove the word interprets out of there
Yeah,
and replace it with applies. But when I read it, I think it explains works better unless I'm just not understanding the intent.
well, the same thing you can see the next page too, they have understand. You go to the next page. For interpret, they replace with understand.
Now, that one I think is okay,
Yeah.
myself, yeah.
So probably, that's what even I thought of raising this one. The previous classification, it was say the interpret, whenever we see the interpret word, probably our antenna will be feeling bad. So it gives a proper word like understand. That makes, maybe you'll be felt happy of that, something.
And-
Sure. This is demonstrative of how we do a conscious assessment as to whether the word choice is appropriate, that exists, if it's appropriate. And then, of course, when we're building out new classifications, if it should be included or not. So with this, we did check in with our subject matter experts as far as that piece. I don't hear that the question is about use of the word interprets necessarily. It's more so what the alternative choice was. In this particular one, then, on typical duty number 6 for social worker supervisor, and this is for assistant deputy chief or for the supervisor online, we state that incumbents, they applies the scope and limitations of departmental programs to recipients and other interested parties. Applies the scope and limitations of departmental programs to recipients and other interested parties. Commissioner, you were proposing to change that to,
I was.
I'm sorry,
No, that's
That's
Chair.
all right. I was thinking explains fit the sentence better, but I did keep going back and forth because I can see where in this case, it's the
Someplace-
application that's needed, but based on the word that was there previously, I think explains fits it better. I don't have a strong opinion, would be interested in hearing from the department.
Deputy chief or supervisor Wood.
Hello. So I'm Bethany Wood. I'm the social worker supervisor. I think explains or applies would work, either one, whichever one you feel suffices.
Okay, thank you. Then, as long as she's had the chance to evaluate it and wants to stick with it the way it is, then I'm fine with that. So any further comments or discussions?
Yeah, just simple question, like, the lead supervisor will have that qualification, or he can able to handle the duties of the supervisor in case in his absence.
And where are you? I'm trying
No,
to
I'm just
follow.
asking because they give the characterize and the qualification looks kind of more or less similar. I'm just asking a general question. Is it possible the lead developer, lead social worker, will have the qualification or experience to handle the supervisor's job in case in his absence?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, any further comments or anything anyone else wants to consider before we have a motion?
No, I'm good.
Just a slow part of my brain here, but going back to your, bringing this, are you saying that that doesn't need to be applies? I'm just trying to get some clarity.
Well, it depends upon the situation, it goes applies or understand.
No. Because I
But not
can
in-
understand the change. That's why it made sense to me when I was reading it. Because it's duty, so it's an action, where interpret is more a mental understanding and not an action of duty.
Yeah, yes. My only, in previous statements of this sort on the other classes, the word explain had been substituted for interpret. And then in this one on the supervisor, it was applies. So that makes sense if that was intentional to change that, because the supervisor would do things differently than the other classes, but I wasn't sure it was intentional. So that's why I was asking about it.
Gotcha.
Okay, I think we have completed our discussion on this, and I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Yeah, I can make a motion for the classification project CP 24-035, Probation Department General Division.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. No one's opposed, and that motion has passed as well. Ms. Strange, is there any public comment?
We do not have any public online. Is there any public comment here in the room? There is not. Thank you.
Thank you. In that case, this meeting is adjourned. Do we want everyone, we need a minute. Aye.